All right, next one is staffing projections, minimum course enrollment.
Okay, so Mary Ann, you're going to have to try to keep up with me here a little bit on the overheads to make sure the board can see. What you're going to see is a staffing summary sheet for the 2013-14 school year. We spent about the last month going through our enrollment numbers and course selections, and based on the course enrollments and the projection of approximately 50 transfer students from now to the start of next year, the total FTE count should increase by about 3.0 FTE. Currently, we're at 85.9, and we're requesting 88.9. There's a couple of documents that are attached. I'll go in order. The first document is just a memo summarizing Ms. Bosma's work and the targets that were set for her in regards to lab classes, non-lab classes, and physical education and music classes. And with those three targets, the guidelines or parameters that I asked the building administration to follow was that a course should come in no more than plus or minus 2. So we'll use the example of a lab course to be simple. The target ratio is 25-1. So we should be trying to run courses anywhere between 23 and no more than 27, so that there is some flexibility. Also, what you will see in the next memo is the board does have a policy. I believe it's policy 3:61, and that is the courses below 20. And this is for any of those single courses. Last year we put this in place to minimize courses running below 20 students in them to keep an eye on our staffing cost. So as you can see here, the first header on this memo that Ms. Bosma's created is the courses that are below 20 students. And so the next tab, just looking at those, the first two out of the 5 total listed, the first 2 are our TV production and introduction to TV. So they do not have a direct impact on that FTE count because we have a provisional certificate that teaches that, and also is our AV Media Services coordinator. So math, pre-algebra, we have only 15 students in there. But I believe, Pam, you can explain more. This is a course that we've had a couple sections added so that, or there's room built in for that for transfers, correct?
Well, previously this course was in the special education department, but with the Explore scores of our incoming 8th graders, we have a number of students who do not have IEPs that really are not ready for algebra and need the pre-algebra class. So by moving it into the math department, it is now all students will get access to it based on their need. And so what we found is that putting students in just the regular algebra class that are regular education students that have these lower scores, they're really struggling. So this is an important intervention that we can allow for all of our students. Right now, currently, we have 15 students. We are expecting some transfer students. Our pattern has been that our transfer students come in, and many of them are at-risk learners in math, so we expect that number to go up, but already we have 15 in that.
The other course listed there is AP Calculus BC, which is our capstone math course. There's 17 students in there. It does earn dual credit, and Ms. Bosma wrote a few summary points on that. I would strongly recommend this should be considered by the board. And then the final one is German 2. We have 19 total students, and most of these students will need 2 years of a foreign language to go to college, so we would want to try to keep them at least to get the minimum of their 2 years of German if they did German 1. So we've come a long way in that the first time we discussed when I was on the job for about 3 or 4 months with courses that were running at or below 20 to where now the building administration has done a good job of aligning staffing and course enrollments, and we are requesting that 5 courses be approved tonight. For some additional information, there's a line that goes across in the second set of classes, our classes under 23 that are being monitored. And what I asked Pam to do is these are courses that Pam proposed to the superintendent to run next year, even though they're below the target line, or that plus or minus 2. But I wanted to identify those to the board so that if we get students that drop out, there's 2 things. One, should the students drop out of the course, it may fall below 20. And I want to make sure we're being upfront with the board of what courses are borderline. But also, it will show what courses we still have some room in as we get transfers to pick some of these elective courses. And I'll give the board a minute to look over the page. I think there's a total of about 8.
Well, can you ask questions?
Sure.
For Ms. Bilesma. Can we ever expect, based on what I would perceive as a bell curve of abilities, could we ever expect any greater participation in a school this size in AP Calculus BC than 16 or 17?
These are kids that would enter as freshmen in honors geometry already. They're already really accelerated in their middle school math programs, so that is going to probably not be much larger of a number. We don't tend to get that many transfer students that would come in at that high level. Most of them would just be in honors algebra. So it's a smaller number, but it's quite a large number, to be honest, for a school.
Proportional to
very few high schools can run this course at all. So for the school of our size, this is an impressive amount of students at that level. This is their second AP class.
I think in 4 years as a principal of a high school, close to 3,000. I don't think we've ever got over 20.
Yeah, so
and that's double the size of our B.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Well, hurrah on that. But then I had a second question on the ESL classes and the low participation rates. 7 students for ESL US history and 5 students for ESL reading and writing. Those, I mean, strikes me as very low numbers. Is that an extraordinarily low number for participation?
Well, I didn't get to that section yet, so you asked questions on something. So those courses, if no one else has questions on the first 2, the third header.
Thank you.
The third header that I had Pam put in are all of our ESL and special education courses that are required to run to be in compliance with state and federal regulations. So I just wanted the board to have an understanding of that.
Pam, can I ask you a question on the ESL courses? Do we aggressively go out and test and make sure that kids that are maybe borderline maybe should be putting in this class that would help them out better than?
You actually have somebody sitting in here who works and tests our ESL. Tricia Reeves is in the audience here tonight. But yes, we've done a really good job in changing our even our tracking when people enter. So she stays at freshman registration and talks to every student and parent that enters. We have them fill out language forms also when they register, which highlights if they speak another language or multiple languages in the home or are exposed to that triggers that she knows she needs to get the child in for testing. So we set up those testing days and then determined on whether parents are going to accept services or opt out. There are different things that have to happen, and so you might want to ask her to present it sometime. It's very complex, but she tracks it, and these numbers will change as we get confirmations, and she works through this with these families over the summer. Even though she's done a lot of the testing already, it's still now getting the commitments from people and placing them in what they need. And honestly, so many of the transfer students also need to be tested, so that fluctuates with those 50, 60 people walking through the door. A number of those will be tested as well. So these numbers aren't firm yet. They're just where they are at this point.
Well, I think this is really important too, because I think that student helps the parents to even become more acclimated in society and be able to succeed in society. It's a two-way street with both of them working together on it.
Definitely.
All right. Any other questions on this? All right, Kevin.
Last sheet is a Excel spreadsheet with blue and gray boxes, Mary Ann. So this will give the board an idea of change in FTE by department and in comparison to the previous school year, and it will give us the projected average in each of those departments. One thing I want to highlight, some of these, most of the department averages are right on. Some may come in a little under that ±2, but I need the board to remember that basically, what we have done is there's probably English, math, science, social studies, and PE. So basically, close to almost 2.0 FTE out of that 3 is set up for transfers. What we did is we took our freshman projections, since our historical data has shown a majority of those transfers come in freshman year, or as freshmen. So basically, we've provided a section to a section and a half of room in every one of those core subject areas to make sure that we can accommodate transfers. So we haven't done anything different than what we did last year, except we've implemented those extra sections with the intent that those transfers come in. The risk the board and the district takes is that within 45 days to the end of the school year, you cannot reduce, enforce, or make any changes. But with the dismissals of the part-time staff that we do every year, we should be at a place to where if we feel that some of these numbers aren't coming in, but it doesn't really impact reduction in force numbers. It's not like we're overstaffing, and then we can hire accordingly. And there are, in the event that some transfer classes don't come in, we do have a couple junior and senior classes and a couple AP classes that are right at the cap, or maybe a student or two over the cap, that we could provide some additional relief to. This was not submitted in time to get into the board packet, but there's an email from Ms. Augustine updating the board, and you all have that handout next to your agenda packets. Just where we're at currently, we have 1,456 students enrolled for next school year. She is anticipating 9 more freshmen in the next month. And if you add the historical data of projection of about 50 transfer students, we will be right on target at 515. And the enrollment projections that Tim and I put forward were for 513. So
15,
13, I'm sorry. So we are about, plus or minus 2. Now, I know we overshot a little bit in regards to the teachers, but if you look at the 6 content areas that are required, they have those years. If we just put the extra section or 2 in each of those, it's already 2 point something. So,
and the 2.2 unassigned.
Well, we're at 2.8, but we have 2 to 3 areas we're watching, but we don't want to assign a section of that right now before we start working on that master schedule in case some students. That's where we made a mistake last year. We tried to assign it earlier.
Right.
And then what happens is some of those students withdrew, or we didn't get as many transfers for that course, and then it looked like one course was running at 15 and another course was running at 37. So that gives us just that little bit of flexibility.
Good.
Any questions for Kevin on this? I'd like to thank Pam and Kevin really working this out and doing some really good analysis on this and being able to explain, where we're at class-wise, and also why we have special classes and why we're going to have some lower censuses on it. So,
if all the numbers come in as planned, we should still be below 30 to 1 in most of our sections. I mean, there will be 1 or 2 courses, but this should provide a little more flexibility in those courses to stay under those targets, or right at those targets that we shot for.
okay. Then you want us to, this will be shown, are you going to do anything else with this, or this will be done?
There's not a formal resolution to approve the staffing projection. We just have one reduction in force, and that's just because there's not enough sections for that teacher to stay full-time. But
Okay.
But do we have to vote on the projected less than 20?
yes, we do. I'm sorry.
That's what we have to vote on.
Correct. And there is a resolution on my cover page. I'm sorry.
Resolved that the Board of Education Township High School District 208, Cook County, Illinois hereby approves in accordance with District Policy 6:31 the list of courses for the 2013-2014 school year with projected enrollment below 20 students based on the current student enrollment data as presented in the March 12, 2013 board agenda packet.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dan Moon. Any other discussion?
And these are all the first bullet points that you talked about. The German under world language.
Yes.
The pre-algebra, AP Calculus BC, advanced TV production, and intro to TV.
Yes.
Okay, Mary Ann.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes. Okay, we're going to, we're done with new business. We're going to go into our closed session where we're going to discuss personnel issues, confidentiality of closed session minutes, collective negotiative matters, and litigation. At this point, we have time for people to speak up as visitors. Statement, anybody want to speak over here? Anybody want to speak over there? Mr. Skolnick, you sure you don't want to step up? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Resolved that the Board of Education, Township High School District 2A, Cook County, Illinois, enters closed session for the purpose of considering appointment, employment, or dismissal of employees, confidentiality of closed session minutes, collective bargaining issues, and litigation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Gary Gritchen. Mary Ann?
Mr. Gritchen?
Yes.
Ms. Ruska?
Yes.
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Cindy?
Yes. All right, it is right now, yes, it is true. It is 7:37. We'll start at approximately 10 to 8 in our district conference room. And thank you very much. Have a good night. We'll see you later on.